My sister branded me humiliation at her wedding. Betrayal later, her boss said, interesting. Then passed me a contract worth 220,000 as she stood completely froze. The bitter taste of being the family's invisible man. I thought I knew it well. But nothing prepared me for the public execution my own sister orchestrated at her wedding, not even on her happiest day. The Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom felt like a gilded cage that night, suffocatingly opulent with the jazz quartet playing a little too loud and the champagne-fueled chatter echoing off the high ceilings. Amidst it all, my sister, Chloe, latched onto my forearm, her fingers digging in like claws as she dragged me across the polished marble. She was beaming, a smile stretched unnaturally wide, the kind that hints at a brewing storm behind the eyes. "Marcus," she shrieked, her voice cutting through the noise like a siren. "I absolutely need you to meet someone very special." Conversations around us died. My stomach dropped as every head turned, every eye fixed on me. And then, there he was, Walter Ellison, 55, Vice President of Operations at Parkview Financial Group. His charcoal Tom Ford suit probably cost more than I paid in rent for a year. Chloe had worked as his executive assistant for 2 years, and she never stopped gushing about his importance and the prestige of her position. Walter had traveled all the way from Boston for her wedding. Then came the punch to the gut. "This is my brother, Marcus," Chloe announced, her voice dripping with an almost theatrical condescension. Still single at 40. Still messing around with some insignificant consulting business nobody understands. She gave a dismissive shrug, a gesture so small, yet so devastating. Some people just never figure out what they want out of life. From the head table, my father, Robert, chuckled. My mother, Susan, covered her mouth, her eyes crinkling as if Chloe had just delivered the funniest punchline. The casual cruelty of it, the way they normalized my erasure, it hit me harder than any physical blow. 40 years of being the quiet one, the one who took care of everything behind the scenes while Chloe basked in the spotlight. And now, at her wedding, a wedding I'd practically planned myself, she was humiliating me in front of everyone. My hands trembled at my sides. But Walter Ellison didn't laugh. He sat perfectly still, a champagne flute halfway to his lips. For a brief moment, his gaze flickered from Chloe to my parents, then settled back on me. His face was unreadable, carved from granite. "Marcus," he whispered, his voice cutting through the suffocating silence. "His name?" "Then, what kind of consulting do you do?" I blinked, surprised he was even speaking to me. "Corporate restructuring. Financial consulting," I managed, my voice a little hoarse. "I help small to medium-sized businesses in crisis." He nodded slowly. "How long have you been doing this?" 15 years. He set the flute back down untasted. "Very interesting." Then, he looked at Chloe, all the warmth drained from his face replaced by an icy glare. "Chloe," he said, his voice now like shattered glass. "I need you in my office first thing Monday morning. Hodred sharp. Don't be late." He stood, adjusted his cufflinks, and walked out without another word. The silence that followed was deafening. Chloe's smile wavered, a mask of bewilderment. My parents exchanged confused glances. Nobody understood what had just happened. Neither did I. 20 minutes later, I excused myself, claiming a headache. Driving home to my small house in Riverside, my hands still shook on the steering wheel. I was the one who kept to myself, the one who didn't demand praise, who simply took care of things. Chloe, 4 years younger, had always been the center of attention, homecoming queen, drama club president, full scholarship to Boston University. I was the invisible son. My college degree, earned working 3 jobs, came with a congratulations card my mother forgot to sign. Chloe's photos adorned every room in my parents' house, her graduation, her first day at Parkview Financial, her Chamber of Commerce award. 3 months before the wedding, Chloe called, asking for small favors. "Marcus, you're so good at boring logistics. I need you to handle a few vendor issues." A few vendor issues meant negotiating with 14 different vendors, catching a catering company trying to overcharge, a florist attempting a $900 upcharge. I even renegotiated the venue contract, saving her $400-500 on the deposit. 2 weeks before the wedding, I paid the photographer's $300-500 retainer because she'd forgotten her checkbook, a loan she swore she'd repay immediately. She never did. My parents, of course, raved. "Chloe is so organized. She's handling this wedding so professionally." My name was never mentioned. At the reception, I was seated at table 15, tucked in a back corner, near the kitchen, with distant cousins I barely knew. Chloe, with her new husband Brandon, sat proudly at the head table with my parents. I was an afterthought, a placeholder, a source of embarrassment. Monday morning, as I pulled into the parking lot of my modest office suite, shared with an insurance agent and a CPA, I saw a black Mercedes S-Class. Walter Ellison emerged, A solemn expression on his face, a leather portfolio in hand. He wore a crisp blue suit. As he approached me, he asked, "Marcus, do you have a moment?" My office was unassuming but professional. A tidy desk, filing cabinets, framed certificates, a bachelor's in economics from a state university, an MBA from Northeastern, and 15 years of client testimonials. Walter looked around, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Are you familiar with a furniture company operating about 14 years ago?" he asked, sitting across from my desk. "Reed Furniture in Hartford." The name hit me like a freight train. My throat tightened. "I remember the owner," I said. "An older man, possibly late 40s. On the verge of losing everything." "That was me," Walter said, placing the portfolio on my desk. 14 years ago I was drowning in debt. My father had just passed, leaving me a business hemorrhaging money, 3 weeks from bankruptcy. Then, a young man walked into my store, looked at my books without charging a dime, and told me exactly what I was doing wrong. He spent 7 weeks working completely free. "When I tried to pay you, you said you couldn't take money from someone who reminded you of your grandfather. You saved my business, Marcus." He paused. 4 years later, I sold that store for a profit. It allowed me to get my master's and grow my profession. A complete stranger with no motive decided to help me, and that's how all I have done began. I had forgotten Reed Furniture. It was one of my first clients, back when I was still idealistic, still believing hard work and helping people would earn me respect. "When your sister introduced you at the wedding," Walter continued, "when she called you the embarrassment of the family, I recognized your name immediately." He opened the portfolio. "Marcus Grant, the man who saved my life." "I didn't fire Chloe because of her statements Saturday night. I've been researching her for the past 10 months, gathering information. It's come to our attention she's been fabricating expense reports, taking credit for work junior associates completed, and using business email for questionable personal activities." He spread documents across my desky spreadsheets, email printouts, highlighted sections revealing irregular hours, fabricated client meetings, and personal expenses billed to the company. The wedding simply confirmed something I already knew about her personality. Walter explained that Eleanor Vance, a corporate forensic accountant with 24 years of experience, had uncovered the pattern 7 months ago. Chloe had boasted about negotiating a contract with Patterson Industries. In reality, a junior analyst, Adam Foster, did the heavy lifting. Chloe simply accepted the $50,000 commission and affixed her name to the final papers. She'd also been writing off personal expenses, gym subscriptions, apparel, a trip to Turks and Caicos disguised as client development, amounting to over $85,000 in fraudulent charges over 20 months. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Our subsidiary companies are undergoing reorganization," he said, sliding a contract across the desk. "I've appointed you to the position of consultant. 3 companies or 45 million in revenue. I need someone I can trust, someone with integrity. 6-month project, $100,000. I was speechless. "There's one more thing," Walter said, choosing his words carefully. As the investigation progressed, Eleanor noticed peculiar patterns in Chloe's personal finances, including significant transfers from accounts she shared with your parents. "If I were you, I'd investigate any family financial arrangements with extreme caution. I want to make sure you're not taken advantage of." That following week, I dove into old documents, bank statements from my undergraduate days, letters my grandfather had written before he passed, and eventually the truth. When my grandfather died 17 years ago, he'd established a school fund with $100,000 to be split equally between his 2 grandchildren, but $50,000 each. Chloe had received her agreed upon payment in full. It covered her entire college education, her first car, her Boston apartment. My parents, having invested my portion in a failed business venture, never told me. They stole my inheritance. The bank records were cleared 4 months after withdrawing $50,000 from my account. My father transferred the money to Chloe's. While she graduated debt-free, I was working 3 jobs and eating ramen 6 nights a week, spending 12 years paying off student loans I never should have had. My vision blurred as I stared at the paperwork in my office. 2 weeks after the wedding, Chloe called. Her voice, soft and pleading, was a stark contrast to her cruelty at the reception. "Marcus, we need to talk. This thing with Mr. Ellison, it's a misunderstanding. You know how these corporate investigations blow things out of proportion. Do I just tell them you helped me with some of those reports, that we collaborated. We're family, Marcus. Family protects each other. You called me the embarrassment of the family in front of 100 people. That was a joke. God, you're so sensitive. I was just trying to be funny. Funny. Look, if you don't help me, this could destroy my entire career. They're talking about criminal charges, Marcus. I could go to prison." You committed fraud, Chloe? Because I was under so much pressure! Did you have any idea how stressful my job is? I made mistakes, that's all. Mistakes. But if you tell them we worked together, I'm not going to lie for you. Her tone hardened, the mask finally slipping. You owe me! I let you be part of my wedding! I introduced you to important people! You owe me! I hung up the phone. 3 days later, Walter Ellison summoned me to a conference room at Parkview Financial's regional office. With him were Eleanor Vance, mid-50s, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, designer glasses, and Michael Quinn, late 40s, director of legal affairs, with the exhausted look of someone who'd seen too many cases like this. We found something else, Eleanor said, sliding a folder across the table. During the forensic audit, we discovered emails in Chloe's sent folder that appear to come from your email address. The pit of my stomach sank. They're not genuine, Michael stated immediately. It was designed to give the impression you were providing her guidance on how to manipulate expense reports and client documentation. Her intention was to make you appear to be a co-conspirator. Eleanor opened her laptop, displaying the emails. They used a domain slightly different from mine, but had my name. The content was damning detailed instructions on falsifying reports, claiming credit for others' work. The metadata tells the real story. Eleanor reiterated. Every single one of these emails was created from Chloe's work computer. The IP address traces back to her desk. The timestamps show they were all created in a 3-hour window last Tuesday night, after she knew we were investigating. She tried to frame you. Michael concluded. If this had worked, you'd be facing criminal charges alongside her. I couldn't breathe. My own sister, in an effort to protect herself, had tried to destroy me. The company hearing took place that Friday afternoon. I wasn't required to be there, but Walter invited me to observe from an adjacent room with one-way glass. Chloe sat across from a panel of 4 executives: Victoria Hayes, head of human resources, the chief financial officer, and the chief legal officer. Victoria, with 30 years in corporate investigations, presented the evidence methodically: the fabricated emails, the stolen work, the falsified expense reports, the metadata proving Chloe had created them herself. Chloe tried to charm them, to cry, to get angry. Nothing worked. Kilo Grant, Victoria Hayes said, her voice icy and businesslike, you are terminated effective immediately. The company will be pursuing full restitution for fraudulent expenses totaling 85,000. We will also be reporting this matter to law enforcement for potential criminal prosecution. Chloe shot up. You can't do this. My family has connections. Walter, in a low voice, cut her off. Your father has no connections that matter here. You're done, Chloe. Security escorted her out, carrying her personal belongings in a banker's box as she exited through a back elevator. That evening, I made my first phone call to my parents since the wedding. Marcus? Mom said, her voice bright and oblivious. We were just talking about you. Did you hear about poor Chloe? She's going through something difficult at work. I told her you might be able to help her find a new job. I know about Grandpa's education fund, I stated. There was no sound. I know you took my 50,000 and gave it to Chloe. I have the bank records. I have the transfer receipts. I know everything. More silence. Then, my father Robert's voice, defensive. That money was invested. It was stolen. You stole my inheritance and gave it to your favorite child while I worked 3 jobs and ate ramen. She was living in a luxury apartment with my money. Chloe needed opportunities. Mom's voice trembled for a moment. She had so much potential, and I had nothing. I had no potential. I was just the embarrassment. We were going to pay you back, Marcus, Dad said. Eventually, when things were better. 18 years. You had 18 years instead. You laughed when she humiliated me at her wedding. A wedding I planned that I paid $3,500 for. I ended the call before they could say anything else. 4 weeks after the wedding, my family gathered for a meal at my Aunt Carol's house. I almost didn't go. Aunt Carol had called me personally. Please come, she'd pleaded. It's important. Trust me. When I walked in, my entire family was there. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all seated stiffly at one end of the table. No sign of Chloe or Brandon. Aunt Carol, 72 but still ramrod straight, stood at the head of the table. I invited everyone here tonight because I have something to say, she announced. For 40 years, I have watched this family treat Marcus like he doesn't exist, like he doesn't matter. I'm done being silent. My father started to speak, but Aunt Carol raised her hand aloft. Robert, please take a seat. You'll listen for once. She turned to the room. Let me tell you about the nephew you've all ignored. 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. The treatment cost more than I had. I was going to sell my house. Marcus paid my medical bills anonymously, $12,000. I didn't find out it was him until 3 years later. My mother's face went white. When Daniel, John, and Susan's son needed help applying to colleges, who spent hours assisting him with essays, test prep, and financial aid navigation. Marcus. Daniel was awarded a full scholarship. Not one of you ever acknowledged Marcus's assistance. She pulled out documents, printed emails, letters. When Robert and Susan lost their jobs during the 2009 recession, who co-signed their car loan so they get to job interviews? Marcus. When their mortgage was about to default, who gave them $9 in interest, free? Marcus. My parents' eyes darted to the table. This is the man you called the embarrassment of the family, Aunt Carol said, her voice breaking. The man who's been quietly saving all of you for decades while you praised Chloe, who it turns out is a criminal? The room was silent. Maybe. Aunt Carol said softly, "It's time you took a good look at who actually matters in this family." 8 weeks after her termination, Chloe showed up at my office. She looked exhausted, hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, eyes red from crying. "Can I come in?" she asked. I let her sit. "Didn't offer coffee?" "I've been going to therapy," she said quietly. "Twice a week. My therapist, Dr. Lisa Patton, she's been practicing for 22 years. She asked me to write down every time you helped me, every time you were there, and I took credit or ignored you." She pulled out a notebook. Pages and pages of handwriting. I got to page 43 before I couldn't write anymore. 43 pages of times you showed up for me, and I treated you like you were nothing. Tears ran down her face. "I always thought you were weak, because you never fought back, because you just took it. But you weren't weak. You were stronger than any of us. You were better than us. And I destroyed everything trying to be someone I thought mattered when you were the only one who actually did." She stood. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally see you, really see you. And I'm sorry, Marcus, for all of it." She left before I could respond. 10 weeks after the wedding, my parents invited me to dinner, just the three of us at their house. I was on the verge of saying no, but there was something broken in the way my father spoke to me over the phone that made me agree. Many of Chloe's photographs had been removed. The house felt altered, smaller. As he poured coffee, Dad said, his hands shaking, "I've been thinking about your grandfather. How proud he was when you graduated college. He told me you reminded him of himself. Hardworking, honest, strong. I paid him no attention back then. Chloe was the one with the big aspirations," Dad went on. "I was so focused on her achievements that I forgot to see yours." Across the table, Mom extended her hand. I refrained from taking it. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. "I thought you were strong enough not to need us," she said. "You never vented your frustrations, and you never sought assistance. I told myself that meant you were fine, that you didn't need a mother like Chloe did. But I was wrong. It meant that you were fine. You did need me. You needed both of us, and we failed you. We completely failed you as parents." My father's voice was trembling. "I stole your inheritance because I believed Chloe would make better use of it, because I thought she was more important than you. It was the worst thing I've ever done. But I'd spent the past 17 years convincing myself it was the best option." They sat there, crying, broken. I felt nothing but something. Certainly not forgiveness. Not at this time, but perhaps the possibility of it in the future. "I need time," I said. "Yes, probably. And I need you to understand that I'm not the embarrassment anymore. I never was. We see you now, son," Dad murmured. Finally. "And you're extraordinary." 6 months after the wedding, Walter Ellison and I launched a program through Parkview Financial Group, offering free restructuring services to small businesses experiencing a crisis. We called it the Second Chance Initiative. One of the first businesses we saved was a family-owned bakery in Hartford that reminded me so much of Reed Furniture. When I told the proprietor the consultation was free, she broke down in tears. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "Because someone helped me once," I explained, "and I'm paying it forward." My parents sent me the article written about the initiative in the local newspaper with a note that read, "Proud of you." At long last. I tucked it away in a drawer, not because I depended on their approval anymore, but because I no longer needed it. 3 months after that, a card from Chloe arrived. She'd accepted a position as a junior accountant at a smaller company, earning only a quarter of what she had before. The card had a clean design. "Not you, but we were the ones who caused the embarrassment. Thank you for demonstrating to me what it means to be honest." I found that card sitting on my desk. Not because I had forgiven her. Not yet, but because she had finally seen me for the very first time. And maybe in the long run, that will be sufficient. I'm still processing everything that happened. If you were in my shoes, what would your next move be? Or have you ever had to face similar betrayals from your own family? Let me know in the comments below. I'm reading every single one.